Good morning. My name is Stephanie, and I'm here to share with you my journey today. Are you excited to be here?
Yes.
Great. I'm excited you're here as well. I'm hoping, and tell me if this is okay with you guys, that this can be kind of like an interactive presentation. You know, I don't learn very well when I'm just listening to someone. I learn by doing and listening and talking. So is it okay with you guys? Part of my presentation today is going to be in story form. Part of my presentation today is going to be you guys talking to each other and getting up and meeting new people. Is that okay? Can we agree? Is it okay? Yeah? Nice. Good. Hey, Don. Hey, Pat. Well, thank you so much for coming today. Well, how was your first presentation this morning? Good. Drama? Was it awesome? Awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. First, so today we're going to talk about engaging in cultural humility. Maybe this is a new term for some of you. Maybe it's an old term. We're all at different levels of understanding and culture, and so we hope that today that you will just broaden your perspective in that. Okay, can someone volunteer and tell me who you met? What's the strangest food they've ever eaten? And why are they here? Evan, you want to start?
Sure. I met Karen. She's from APU. She's a psychology major.
Woo woo, APU.
She wants to do a lot of nonprofit thing and do counseling after she graduates. The strangest food that she's ever eaten is actually sushi. Which is interesting because I find that awesome.
Yeah.
But do you love it? Yeah, she loves the strangest food she's ever eaten.
Nice.
She chose to attend the seminar because she's a freshman. She's part of our multi-ethnic program, leadership program. Oh, I said program twice.
Awesome.
But yeah, she's required to be here, but she's excited to learn about diversity.
Awesome. Isn't it great? So Evan grew up maybe eating sushi. She tried it for the first time. It was strange to her, right? So what's strange for one person isn't strange for another person, depending on our backgrounds, right? Anybody else want to share? Who did you meet? Don't be shy. Jackie, you wanna? Who did you talk to?
I talked to these ladies back here. They're from Fresno.
Ooh, awesome. Welcome, Fresno.
And Ariana has eaten snake.
Ooh, snake. Anybody else eating snake? Raise your hand. Ooh.
Mom, she's sitting on the floor. She's eating escargot.
Ooh, escargot. Anybody else? Escargot? Ooh, yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Jackie. Anybody else? Can I have one more volunteer share? You look like you really want to share.
Me?
Yeah.
This is Chase.
Hey, Chase.
He's an RA in Emerson, and the strangest food he ate was jellyfish. And he chose this seminar because he thought the title was cool, and his staff came. So.
Oh, very cool. So some of you are coerced into coming, right? Someone recommended. Some of you thought the title was cool. Well, whatever reason why you're here, I hope that today we can all take a journey, and these would be our goals for today, to broaden our perspective on culture and diversity. We're all on a journey. None of us are going to make it to the pivotal point of understanding everything there is about culture and diversity, but we are all walking on a journey, and our perspectives need to be continually broadened. And also, we want to learn how to engage with others in cultural humility. And like I said in the beginning, maybe this is a new term to you today, and so we hope that you would gain more perspective on that. Maybe some of you are wondering about me, right? Who am I? Why am I giving this presentation? Well, today I want to include part of my story as part of our journey. So I want to take you on a journey, first of all, to my childhood. Imagine, if you can, every day after school, my brother and I, we would walk home from school by ourselves. It was only about 2 miles, so not too far, and we had a key to our house. Both of our parents worked, so we were pretty much on our own. Once we were home, we immediately put on our play clothes and we ran outside to play basketball and football, whatever games that were happening outside with all the other boys in the neighborhood. I played with the boys, pretty much. So. Also, we would enjoy blowing things up. So my uncle loved to like make homemade dynamite and take my Barbie dolls and like blow them up in front of me. It was just very traumatic, but also very fun. I lost many a Barbie to those antics for sure. What about homework, you might ask? Well, there was nobody, prodding us to do our homework. There was no accountability at all, so we didn't do our homework, which is actually a rather interesting thought now that I have my master's degree. Also, we love to play with BB guns. So my uncle, who also lived with us, had this huge BB gun, and then a guy across the street also had one, and so they would fight in the streets. Some reason I always got in the crossfire. BB got caught in my arm one time. One time I ducked and the BB almost hit me. It was kind of a crazy neighborhood. They also loved to play darts. Do you guys like darts, anybody? Yeah? They would throw these darts as fast as they could at the dartboard. Again, somehow, one of them got caught in my arm. I don't know how this always happened to me, but as you can imagine, I know, right?
Sorry, that sounds so painful.
I know, it was. They still make fun of me at this point. They said I purposely got in the way. I don't know. So, you can imagine my childhood. Not a lot of supervision, right? Everybody's playing together. And every day throughout the whole year, friends came out in the street. As we played, cooking smells came from every house in the neighborhood. Our Filipino neighbors were cooking chicken adobo with rice. It smelled so good. And it motivated us to play even harder, whatever game we were playing. And then you could hear a loud bell ringing. Ring, 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 ring. And it got louder as it came down the street. And then a man was yelling, tamales, tamales. And we were so hungry at that point. Fresh tamales in a cart. Then our neighbor from Saipan, anybody been to Saipan? It's an island in the Pacific. Our neighbor came out and said, hey, you guys want a snack? I just fried up some Spam. Now that didn't sound quite as appealing as the tamales did, but we still declined. No, sorry, we have to eat dinner at 5. Our parents are gonna come home at 5 o'clock. And they want us to be hungry. So soon, parents came home, that signaled dinner. We ran inside. Everyone else stayed outside and played until 6 or 7. But at 5, we ate dinner. And the smells that were coming from our house were not quite as good as those tamale smells and the chicken adobo, but they were unique to our family. My parents came from a very, very southern background, Georgia, Alabama. So we ate a lot of pork chops, black-eyed peas, applesauce green beans, and a lot of casseroles. You can't imagine how many casseroles I've eaten in my life. It's disgusting. As we were eating, the sun went into the sun began to recede, and all the other people went back to their homes. And then, guess what happened? The music began. Boom, 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 boom. Soon the Mexicans were playing their cumbia, mariachi as loud as they could, and they would not be outdone by our Polynesian neighbors who had some type of mix of reggae with some country music with their own island blend. And so our neighborhood was full of smells and sights and lots of music. And probably 2 or 3 times a week, there would be a helicopter circling our neighborhood with that bright light. You've seen it on TV, right? Well, that was our reality, that bright light shining in our backyards, looking for something or someone. And probably 2 or 3 times a week, it was my mother that called them because she was scared. The music was so loud, and people were outside partying and drinking, and she didn't know what was going on. The music, the food, the different family styles. It was so diverse. At that time, I had no idea that I was not like the rest of my friends. We were all just hanging out together. No one was bad or good. We were just all different, with different tastes in music, different desires for food. We lived together and we played together. At the local school where my brother and I attended, I was one of the 2 white people in my class. As you can imagine, growing up in such diversity was very confusing for me with my green eyes and my dirty blonde hair at the time. I was a minority in this setting. Yet, when I was younger, I didn't quite understand that I was white. Actually, in my mind growing up, I thought everyone with black hair or brown hair was Mexican. I don't know where I got this idea, but it was there. And since both of my mother and my father have darker hair, I thought my parents were Mexican too. I remember drawing a picture of my family. And I included everyone in my family with beautiful black hair, including myself. Because in my mind, the picture of beauty of the time was, if you had beautiful dark hair, you were gorgeous. You were part of your family. When I drew this picture, I remember one of my friends said to me, "Why did you draw yourself that way? That's not what you look like." I mentioned how everyone with dark hair was Mexican, like my parents, and I wanted to be Mexican like my parents, so I drew dark hair. Can you imagine my friends' responses? They laughed so hard. They were on the floor laughing. "You're not Mexican," they said. "Your parents are not Mexican." Suddenly it hit me. I was different. Dumbfounded, I said, "They're not? What are they then? And what does that make me?" White. I was very confused. I remember thinking, what is white? Mexican, Filipino, Saipanese, Hawaiian, they all had a country or a place to associate how they call themselves. But I was white. Where was white from? Suddenly, I was aware of some appearance difference in myself. I didn't feel any different from my friends. We played together, we hung together, we shared our lives together every day. But apparently, I was different. Apparently, I was white. Appearance. Typically, this is the first thing with which we make an assessment of someone else in our fallen world. They are the first thing that we see as someone's culture. Even though I didn't feel any different from my friends, they thought I was different because of my appearance. Talking about appearance, let's look at a short video on what the United Nations says about appearance and culture. Okay? I want you to look at this video, and then at the end, tell me, what do you think is the short-sightedness of this video? What are they missing? You ready for it? I'm not ready. Feel free to dance. Cute, huh? When I first saw it, I thought, oh, that's awesome. But what are they trying to say here?
We're all unique. We bring something different to the table.
It's true. We're all unique. Do we agree? If we look around the room, no one's the same. We're all unique. Good. What else?
Their culture is like about appearance.
Culture is very much for them about appearance, right? What types of things do they show as being the precursors of appearance? Clothes, what else?
Hairstyle.
Hairstyle?
It seems like culture is very much like a personal, like, it's a expression thing, and it's very individualistic.
It's an expression, and it's very individualistic. Very good. Excellent. Anything else? There's a lot of choices represented here, too, right? They're kind of what you're saying. Like, they choose to wear their hair a certain way. They choose different clothes. And it's all based on maybe some inner values. But what they're not showing here is that there are so many deep things about culture that we cannot see just from looking at somebody. Could you tell that I lived in that multicultural environment? I mean, when you, just be honest, when you walked in here today and you saw me, what was your first assumption, presumption?
Maybe middle, upperclassmen. It's interesting. I'm interested to hear her story.
Okay. White, upper middle class. Maybe she has an interesting story. Good. Anything else?
You might have lived in the suburbs or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Not in Long Beach, in the North Long Beach where I grew up. Right? Anything else? Maybe that I'm privileged. What do I have to say on culture? Being a white person? I mean, there's lots of different assumptions we make about people's appearances. Thankfully, this is not all there is. There's so many deep levels of culture. And so today we're going to talk about macroculture and microculture. The first aspect of culture is macroculture. And we see this as behaviors, beliefs, and characteristics which are similar of many nations or tendencies of big groups of people. Tendencies of big groups of generalizations. So we can see these on a spectrum. On the right side, maybe we would have direct cultures. On the left side, we would have indirect cultures. And then we could have cultures that are all the way on the spectrum in between. So does anybody know an example of a direct culture?
US, Germany.
Okay, German is the most direct culture there is. Very good. So he'd be way over here, and then US is moving this way. A little bit less direct. Can anybody tell me about an indirect culture? Don't be shy. Japanese, Japan, typically. Now, if we say that those cultures are direct and indirect, does that mean everybody in that culture is indirect? No, it's a generalization based on tendencies. We can also talk about time orientation versus event orientation. Time orientation, there is a set beginning and an end to everything. And don't take any more than that. There's no wiggle room. Event orientation, however long it takes, it doesn't matter. Just hang out. Can you give me an example of a time-oriented culture? The US is more time-oriented. And then event-oriented? Latin America, the Philippines. Very good, good. So I want you to notice that I'm not making any judgments on these things. They're not good or bad, they're just different in their culture. Last one, task-oriented versus relationship-oriented. Task meaning I want to focus on doing something and achieving something and finishing something. Relationship, being together is way more important than the task. Okay? So what would be a task-oriented culture? America. Actually, America is in the middle. There are much more task-oriented cultures than America. Think about IKEA and the Swedish and how much they produce that furniture, right? They are task-oriented people. Germans typically as well. What about relationship-oriented? Mexico. Very much. Mexico? I heard someone say what?
Middle Eastern.
Middle Eastern? More relationship-oriented. They're about right there. Yeah? So we have a spectrum of cultures. We cannot dichotomize culture and say, they are time-oriented and they are event-oriented. No, there's a spectrum with which people fall. And you can talk about so many other things, crisis and non-crisis, exposure of vulnerability, how we look at our leaders. They're all on the spectrum. So this would be macro levels of culture. But also there are micro levels of culture. And maybe you guys have seen this identity paradigm before. Kind of hard to see, but if you notice, on the outside are a lot of variables like political beliefs and family and education. All of these things influence our personal culture. So within the spectrum of macroculture, we can actually have a personal culture, which would be our microculture. So for example, I was born in America, but yet I was born in such a multicultural environment. And also I have traveled to over 30 countries, and I speak 3 languages. All of these things inform my identity now as a person. So when somebody asks me, like, you know, where are you from? It's a little bit more difficult for me to just say one place because my identity has been transformed through my multiple experiences. Does that make sense, you guys? Yeah, can you resonate with that? So appearance is here, just one of the many aspects that inform your personal culture. Also on this, we would have race and ethnicity. Many people disagree about if race and ethnicity are separate or together. So for the sake of that, not dealing with that argument, we're just going to keep it together. They also have sexual orientation here as a choice, and gender identity or expression as a choice. So you can see there's lots of different choices in your identity, and many, many factors that contribute to it. One thing that I think you're realizing is that your family really does impact you a lot, right? I heard a lot of people say family. And then I wonder how much that impacts who you choose as a spouse, even, or if you choose to get married or not. And then what kind of job you choose. What's your trajectory in that realm? Are you going to choose a high-level position, or are you going to choose more of a vocational job? Family is huge in our identity development, but it's not the only thing. There's a couple other ones that people said, where they grew up. For example, where did you grow up?
Iowa.
Iowa. Growing up in Iowa had a huge impact on you, right? Anybody else grow up in a place outside of California? Where'd you grow up?
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Washington.
Washington.
Washington?
Arizona.
Arizona.
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Colorado.
I love Colorado.
Chicago.
Chicago.
Mexico, Texas, and Seattle.
Mexico, Texas, and Seattle. Trifecta.
Philippines and Hawaii.
Philippines and Hawaii. Whoa.
Guam.
Guam. Near Saipan.
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, let's have some spam later.
Alaska.
Alaska. Fascinating. North Dakota. Okay. Indonesia. Yeah. So growing up in those cultures influences you a lot, but then also you take your unique culture to other places when you travel. Has anybody been to maybe 5 countries or more? Raise your hand. Whoa, look at that. Okay, 10 or more. 15? Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, okay. We got 3 people. 16? No, down? 15? 14, 15?
I lost count. I think it's like
18?
18.
I think it's like 25.
Whoa! Okay, stand up. Tell us your name. Great. Everything. We got it here. 25. What? Okay, first question. How old are you?
I'm 23.
Oh my gosh. At 23, he's already been in 25 countries. That's amazing. Okay, tell us the countries. Who's going to count?
I can't remember them all, so it's like somewhere between like 18 and 25. It's like
So we're doing 25. Okay.
We spent 4 weeks in Europe, and so we went all across those countries.
Okay.
So you have all those countries, but then you have like Canada, because it's right next to us. I mean, Canada, America, Mexico, Nicaragua. Then you have Ireland, Spain, France, Italy.
Not bad.
Technically, the Bahamas is a country, right? I forgot to include
Yep.
that one.
Technically. Technically.
Malta.
Uh-huh. Malta. That's
Russia,
fascinating.
Germany. If I see a map of Europe, I can list them all. Romania.
Okay.
The Vatican City.
Yes, it counts. Yeah, it does count.
And a bunch of other ones that I can't remember right now.
Is he the winner? I definitely think he's the winner.
Just look through the map.
Asia?
No, that's the one of the continents I have.
Africa?
Asia and Africa.
Australia?
And Australia.
Antarctica?
I wish.
Not yet. The more you travel, the more your identity is impacted, right? The world is a big place, and not everyone is the same as us. And so I think that's a very positive way to increase your awareness about differences. But I mean, even in this room, we have so many differences that could increase our awareness. My question to you is, where did the diverse cultures and languages come from? You know, some people would say that these languages and cultures that we all encounter every day are actually a punishment from God. Anybody know the story in the Bible? Tower of Babel. Some would say that God told them to spread out and multiply, right? And they disobeyed and they tried to build a tower. Some would say that it's a punishment, but I would say it's a blessing. Okay, let me hear some of your thoughts on these ideas. So the people are trying to build a tower, and even if this is an allegory or if it's real, I want to look at like what is their intention. I think maybe that's the message God is trying to send to us. What are their intentions? What are their motivations? Anybody want to give me some feedback on that?
Unity.
Unity. Very nice.
I was thinking, Bree and I were kind of agree with this, that making a name for themselves, seeming a little prideful, that they want to seek the glory for themselves instead of giving it to God.
Excellent. Pride. Did anybody else come up with pride? Glory for man. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else? Power. Yeah. Sorry.
We also kind of talked about like getting their way to God, as in like doing it based on works, and becoming like God through works.
Very good. Themselves, huh?
They were fearful of being separated.
Why do you?
Kind of like unity, but it's also fear.
Why were they fearful of being separated? What do you think? What would that mean for them? Huh? Less power?
Well, being together creates more power because you have more people to have jurisdiction over.
Good, good. So less power, being diverse. Yes, very good. Excellent. I would agree with you on these ideas, but did you think of any other stories in the Bible that you see parallels to these ideas?
I'd say the fall, when like they're eating the apple and it's like, we will become like God.
Yes. We will become like God. Yes.
We were thinking about the unity theme in Acts when people received the Holy Spirit, they started speaking in tongues and everyone heard their own language. There was a sense of unity there because everyone was hearing their own language and they like could recognize that they were each understanding.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. Does everybody hear that?
We talked about the Israelites when Moses was on Mount Sinai, that they wanted to experience God in a more tangible way, like trusting Him. So just as they built the tower, they built the idol.
They built the idol. Oh, excellent.
We talked about Nebuchadnezzar when he was prideful, and then he couldn't speak anymore. So, and then we also talked about how the northern tribes were prideful, and then they were dispersed among the nation.
You guys are educated. This is awesome. I didn't even think about that one. Did anybody else think about Nebuchadnezzar? I mean, you can't even say that name, Nebuchadnezzar. Oh, yeah, like, you know. Awesome. So, a couple key things. So, what we see here is pride, just like in the fall. Man is trying to elevate himself to be like God. That is the temptation. And then there is a punishment for that, right? They are cast out of the garden. Their relationship with God is cut. But I like what you had to say. What is your name? I'm sorry, sir. Josh. Josh brought up Acts 2. Many people would say this is the punishment, but actually a blessing into diversity. And then Acts 2 is when God is going to use his church to bring all of the nations finally back together. So they are bookends to the story. But that's a little bit more down the road for us. Key thing here is pride, right? Before the fall, God created diversity. He created different types of animals. Creation was a beauty. And when he created man, what did he say? Very good, right? He created male and female. We can see even in this creation that we are different, but very, very good. He loves diversity, loves it. Unfortunately, we tried to come together and be one and the same and for a prideful reason, so that we could have power, that we could have a name. So what God is going to do is use our rebellion against him for our own good. That's why I say that this is a blessing. God uses our diversity to keep us humble and to transform us and to make us holy. The opposite of pride is Humility. And if you have ever learned a second or third language, how many of you had learned a second or third language? You will know how hard it is to learn a second or third language, especially as an adult. When you're a kid, it's a little bit easier, right? As an adult, it is a humiliating experience. Yet, I would argue that this is not a punishment, a blessing. God is blessing us with the way it was supposed to be, an opportunity to engage with others in their uniqueness and allow it to impact us personally, to encounter others with different cultures, perspectives, and faiths. And we are stretched to think outside of ourselves, outside of our own perspective. Our pride is confronted about our thinking being the only right way. Unlike Hollywood would lead us to believe, of course. I mean, we see in magazines that there's like one part beauty only. This is what you're supposed to be. This is not true. We are all fearfully and wonderfully made, no matter where we stem from, no matter what color we have, no matter what our aspirations are. And if God made you different from me and me different from you, He has presented us with an opportunity, a blessing, an opportunity to grow and learn from each other, taking a posture of a learner, to listen, to understand, and to walk with people who are different from us. This is a sharpening process. If you've ever had cultural conflict, you understand how sharpening this is. And so God is using this diversity for our holiness. You know that He is more concerned with our holiness than He is with our happiness, right? He wants to see us transformed. And the way He is going to do that throughout all the scriptures is through diversity, through difference, through conflict, through suffering. Doesn't sound very fun, right? But His ways are the best ways. And so here we are. We have a diverse world around us. And typically, there are about 3 ways in which people engage with our diverse world. Some of them are more biblical than others. The first way people tend to engage with our diverse world, is through demonizing it. The second way is by being colorblind. And the third way is by trying to conquer it. Okay? So I'm going to unpack these 3 for you guys today. So, demonizing it. What are the chances that our differences will drive us away from each other? 100%. What are the chances that those with similar perspectives will stick together, will connect together in one big group? 100%. What are the chances that we will start to demonize other groups that are different from us? 100%. It's part of our fallen nature to blame the other, to blame the one that is different. Why? We would probably say pride or fear or selfishness or anger. We fear that which is different from us and that which we do not understand. And we demonize, stereotype, judge the other. Why? To elevate ourselves and our perspective and our cultures, to protect ourselves. Pride. There are so many aspects of culture which are morally neutral. For example, we talked about macroculture earlier, time versus event, direct versus indirect. But many times, instead of just seeing those as morally neutral, we will demonize someone else and say they are bad because of their culture. Let me give you an example. I lived as a church planting missionary in a country called Kosovo for about 4 years. In Kosovo, they speak a language called Albanian. And when I first got there, well, the whole time I was there, I lived with a national Albanian family. I really wanted to dig in deep, learn the language, learn the culture, experience the world as they experienced it. So I lived for 4 years in a house with about 10 Albanians. And Albanians on the scale of directness and indirectness are super direct. Super direct. And they would say things to me like, hey, why are you so fat? And why do you have a pimple on your face? What happened to your hair? This every day for 4 years. Can you imagine the inner turmoil I was experiencing? In American culture, we don't do that. Maybe with our best friend, we might say, hey, what's up? You gained a little weight, you know, like, what's going on? But never so direct. Strangers on the street would meet me for the first time. Oh, you're a fat American. It took everything inside of me not to demonize them and say, they are horrible people. How could they say those things to me? How dare they say those things? They deserve everything that they went through in their war. I mean, these are the thoughts going through my head, right? Because they hurt me because of their direct culture, right? Now, there are beautiful things about their direct culture. I knew exactly what they thought at all times. There was no guessing, right? And I could be direct back. I started asking my friends, hey, what happened to your hair? And there was no repercussions because that was acceptable in that culture. Okay? So easy. I mean, can we be honest? Have you demonized another culture because of a negative experience that you've had with one of its members? My father is an engineer. And even though we grew up in this diverse neighborhood, he did not necessarily engage with the cultures as I did, like interact and get to know them. And he was on a job site a few weeks ago, and he said, I met the most horrible Korean man. And I said, well, what was it about it that made it so horrible? He was conniving and malicious, and like he just started naming all these negative things about Korean culture, or this Korean man, sorry. And he's like, I don't ever want to work with Koreans ever again. No Koreans. I had to say to him, first of all, that one Korean does not represent all Koreans, right? Second of all, what do you think is his motivation in doing what he did? Can you see beyond? And so we started to unpack it a little bit. The Korean man was acting according to his cultural paradigm. My father, very direct, was acting according to his cultural paradigm. They were using different communication styles. Unfortunately, my father is still on a journey. He still is blaming a lot of Koreans for a lot of things. But the reality is, we all do it. We all demonize. And this is definitely not God's way. God wants to redeem us from this. The second way that I see a lot of Christians engaging is by being colorblind. Have you ever heard it? I can't see color. There's no Jew, no Greek, no male, no female. We're all the same. We're all one in Christ Jesus, which is true. We are all one in Christ Jesus, but we look different. And we have different backgrounds and cultures. So what does it help to be colorblind? What are the ramifications of being colorblind?
You think everyone's just like you?
Mm-hmm. You assume a lot, right? Mm-hmm. What else?
Lack of appreciation for other things.
Mm-hmm. Lack of appreciation, absolutely. Exactly. Everyone needs to conform to the dominant culture. Anything else?
I ignore someone's pains and sorrows.
We might ignore someone's pains and sorrows. Ooh, that's good. Ignoring. Anything else? I would say that we're actually sinning by not appreciating the diversity that God actually created. God created us all uniquely. He wants us to be diverse. And if we're not appreciating it, then we're actually moving away from his way onto our way. So if you hear people saying, oh, I'm colorblind, I mean, what could be a good response to check that? Evan? Yeah, you look like you want to answer. Oh, she'll answer for you. You're off the hook, dude.
You could just ask why, because like you said, like
yeah.
You're missing, like if you're colorblind, you're missing what the other people have to offer. Like whether, like no matter what race or like country they're from, like they have unique experiences as individuals, and there's a lot you can learn from that.
Excellent. Very good. Yes, sir?
It just makes life bland.
Yes.
Like, we go out to different kinds of foods because we like different things, whether it's Italian or sushi. You go to those things to experience different taste buds, but when you just view everybody as the same, all of a sudden your life is bland, and there's no difference between a can with one versus one, and you can't celebrate anything.
Exactly, exactly. You can point them to Revelation 7:9. All the nations, every people, every language will praise Jesus together. Is Jesus colorblind? No, he sees everybody there, right? Let's have a more biblical view of it, right? The next way some people see it, and I think that this one isn't necessarily so bad, but there are some shortcomings. Conquer it. And we see this, we're going to see this through a video. How you guys doing? Are you okay? Anybody tired yet? We're almost done. It's a cool video. Okay, so as an intercultural studies major at Biola, this was our approach. Let's study all the different cultures so that when we engage with them, we'll know what to do. So this is a video about a businesswoman, and she's going to travel to a couple different countries. And when she travels there, she has to make some choices. And so as she goes, I'll stop the video and ask you what your choice is according to her situation. Sound good? Okay.
Symbionts presents another Symbionts production. Going global the hard way. Once upon a time, in a corporation not far away, sat an up-and-coming young executive named Natasha. Natasha was head and shoulders above her peers because she was smart, efficient, productive, and persistent, qualities her bosses noticed and rewarded. Natasha's new position, Vice President of Global Business Development, required that she bring in new business from her clients around the world. So, she did a bit of hasty research, got a new passport, packed a bag, and jetted off. First stop, China. Natasha arrived on time. She remembered how to say hello in Chinese.
Ni hao.
Then she got down to business. She covered the agenda, kept the conversation on the business at hand, and finished on time. Mr. Han was impressed with Symbionts' numbers, but he did not give Natasha his business. What did she do wrong?
What did she do wrong?
Informal relationship.
Hmm?
She didn't take the time to like get to know their culture. She just like went over this for
That's what I say. She went straight to business.
She went straight to business. Everybody straight to business, which is an attribute in American culture, right? Task orientation. Yep.
Was it A, didn't speak enough Chinese, B, didn't bow deeply enough, C, gave a boring presentation, or D, she ran a very efficient meeting, keeping to the business at hand?
What do you think?
The answer is D. Natasha's efficiency and talent for keeping everyone on task are assets in her meetings with American clients, but in China, it is customary to get to know one another, to build relationship and trust before doing business. And inefficient or not, you can't rush trust. Next stop, Japan. Natasha had a great meeting with Meiko Nakamura. At the end, Miss Nakamura presented Natasha with her business card. Natasha quickly tucked it into her briefcase and secretly celebrated her victory. But Miss Nakamura never called, and Natasha didn't get her business.
Why not?
His business cards are really like highly valued over there, and so she treated it with disrespect.
Very nice. Anybody else? That's it? Business card? Let's see. Oh. Oh no. It's not okay. Where were we?
Japan.
What did she do wrong? Or D, she ran a very efficient meeting with American clients, but in China, and inefficient or not, you can't rush trust.
Sorry, so sorry.
Next stop, Japan. Natasha had a great meeting with Meiko Nakamura. At the end, Miss Nakamura presented Natasha with her business card. Natasha quickly tucked it into her briefcase and secretly celebrated her victory. But Miss Nakamura never called, and Natasha didn't get her business. What did Natasha do wrong? Was it A, she didn't have a cool business card, B. She didn't speak Japanese. C. She tucked Ms. Nakamura's business card into her briefcase. Or D. She wore a boring black suit. The answer is C. In Japan, business cards are presented and accepted with both hands. They are handled carefully, with respect. Natasha inadvertently offended her would-be client by not treating the card gingerly, not studying it before putting it into her briefcase. In Argentina, Natasha's meeting went so well that CEO Simon Ruiz invited Natasha to his home for dinner. Natasha arrived early and settled in. Finally, the others arrived. Natasha enjoyed her evening, but she didn't get Mr. Ruiz's business.
Why not?
What did Natasha do wrong? Was it A, she arrived early, B, she drank too much wine,
Maybe she did. You don't know.
C, she didn't speak Spanish, or D, she didn't bring a date? The answer is A. In Argentina and other Latin American countries, it is customary to arrive a little late for dinner. By arriving early, Natasha appeared greedy, and no one wants a greedy business partner. Then it was off to Egypt. Natasha offered her left hand to shake, and the meeting was over before it got started. Was it A, she didn't speak the language?
It's too easy, huh?
She offered her left hand to shake.
Did anybody know what left
C,
hand symbolizes?
She wore a conservative black suit. Or D,
It's a poop hand, right?
above. The answer is B. In Egypt and other Muslim countries, shaking hands with your left hand is considered unclean. Natasha's final stop was India.
I'm scared for her. She's not doing too good.
She remembered everyone's name and title. She engaged them in conversation about the Bombay Stock Exchange. And then she gave her best pitch yet. But no matter what she said, the Indian team just shook their heads. Natasha felt dejected,
So sad.
but won his business. In this case, no meant yes, because in India, it's customary to shake your head from side to side to show agreement. Natasha's host agreed with everything Natasha said, and she won the business. Exhausted, Natasha was happy to fly home.
So there's some positive things about this video. Positive things are, it's really important to seek to understand another person's culture and to behave as much as you can correctly in that cultural environment. But the short-sightedness of the video is she wants to conquer it for her own gain, for her own business. And I think most of us maybe have this posture of we want to understand, but so that we can understand and that we can function. I don't think necessarily that's the best posture. So we're going to take a look at engaging the way Jesus did and find a little bit better posture, a posture of cultural humility. This will be our last exercise, and we're almost done. Lunch is coming. I want you to talk with someone next to you about these questions. Number one, who did Jesus choose to be his disciples? How did Jesus talk to people? Where did Jesus go? How did Jesus act towards his followers? And what did Jesus say about how to treat others? 5 minutes, talk to your neighbor. Who did Jesus choose to be his disciples?
Zealot and a tax collector.
Zealot and a tax collector. Completely different people, right? Who else? Fisherman. Tax collector. All of us, yeah. But he specifically chose 12 very diverse people, right? Jesus chose diversity from the start. He is our example that we actually have to choose diversity as well. It's not something that comes naturally to us. I think naturally we want to go to people that are like us, that look like us, that have our similar experiences. But Jesus is the example of true cultural humility in engaging with a diverse group of people from the outset. How did Jesus talk to people? Say it again?
Respect and dignity.
Respect and dignity, yes. Even the people that were considered the biggest sinners, he talked to them in such a way that elevated them, right? Could he have been like, I'm God and you're man, and you know? Pretty much. But he didn't. He elevated everyone that he saw. Where did Jesus go?
Everywhere.
That's a good answer.
He traveled through Samaria when everybody else did.
Excellent. He traveled through Samaria. They were shocked. Why are we going through Samaria? He's like, we're going there. He chose to go to those places. He chose to humble himself and engage with people. What else? What is that beeping?
That's the flashing light on the screen.
Press the button on
Wow, you guys are good. So the last one is, what did Jesus say about how to treat others? What did Jesus say about how to treat others?
As you want to be treated yourself.
As you want to be treated yourself? The greatest command? Love your neighbor as yourself, right? He's constantly talking about your relationship to the Lord and your relationship to other people. This is the greatest commandment. Let's unpack this a little bit. Love your neighbor as yourself. He didn't stop there. You have answered correctly, he said. Do this, and you will live. Fascinating. I always stopped at that part, right? But do this and you will live. So what is Jesus' idea of life for us? It's engaging with him, engaging with others. And do you know the story that happens after he says this? The story of the Good Samaritan. The Pharisees ask, who is my neighbor? And he says, let me tell you who your neighbor is. Your neighbor is that guy on the road that no one else will help. The guy that is so different from you. The guy that is dirty and unclean. He's the guy that's your neighbor. He's the guy you're going to show love to. Right? And he takes care of him. He does more than anyone else will out of love for his neighbor. This is cultural humility. Not just cultural competence where we take a quiz of how much we know about another culture, but actually engaging with another culture. What does engaging with cultural humility take? It takes a few small things. This is what I'll leave you with today. It takes self-reflection. We are on a journey of understanding who we are and who others are. It's not a quiz, it's a journey. And so continually thinking about your own prejudice and your own biases actually helps you to understand other people better. Not to just know something about them, but to learn from them. Approach others as your neighbors in love, with the posture of a learner. Asking questions like, share with me about how you grew up, instead of, where are you from? So I can immediately tell you about your culture. No, share with me about your childhood, your experiences. How did those impact you? Allow this process to transform you. And I would finally add, this is a lifelong choice. Love your neighbor as yourself. Do this and you will live. Finally, the end to my story. Growing up in such a diverse environment gave me a very unique opportunity to engage in this topic of diversity and culture. In many senses, I didn't have a choice about where I grew up. I didn't choose what family to be born into. I didn't choose to be in that neighborhood or our financial situation. I didn't have a choice. But as an adult now, looking back, I ask myself, did I have a choice? And I think the answer is yes, I did have a choice. You see, my brother and I have an older brother, we grew up in that same environment. He's the one that hit me with the BB gun, right? So we engaged every day in the same setting. Yet, now we have completely different stories, completely. Why, you might ask? Well, in my opinion, it's because I chose to embrace diversity, to think about my diverse identity, to think about others around me and engage with them. My brother didn't, and I can't speculate as to why. I don't know his heart, but he didn't. He chose to separate himself from that. He chose the path of disengaging with diversity. But I'm so glad I chose to engage. Do you want to know why? Because God is shaping me and changing me every day through this path, through this journey. He is shaping me into a person that wants to engage with his kingdom, with all peoples, that is being torn, the pride is being torn out continually out of my heart about my culture and my perspective being the only way and the right way. So diversity is a gift. Some of us were born into it. Some of us have to seek it out, but we all have the choice to embrace it. Embracing others who are different from us and to seeking to learn from them. I think that's what God wants from us. That desire to be a kingdom community. I'm not better than you, you're not better than me. We're all just brothers and sisters on the journey together.
We hope you enjoyed this message. Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Learn more at biola.edu.